It's Gardener Sydney back in the garden on a bit of a windy day, and today we're gonna look at some dead things. But first, let's go see what's happening in the garden. I see we have a friend visiting our garden who's not gonna love me getting closer, and a friend leaving our garden. Even though it is fall, we still have a lot of things blooming in the garden. Some pretty flowers. We have some new plants growing up in the garden. These little radishes will hopefully keep growing as the weeks go by. And we have some even smaller plants growing up in the garden. So even though it's fall, we still have things growing, being planted, and producing stuff for us to eat. So we're gonna go now and look at, what did I say earlier? We're gonna go look at some dead stuff. Let's go. Before we look at our dead stuff, I want to show you some machines we use in the garden. And you might be thinking, Gardener Sydney, those are not machines, those are shovels, but they are machines. Let's look at them a little bit closer. All right, so our first simple machine is this. This is what you might know as a shovel. And it doesn't seem like a machine, but a simple machine is just something that makes a job easier, something that we maybe couldn't do beforehand, but can do easier now using this. We also use bigger shovels in the garden. These can help us lift a lot of soil or other things, and they also make our lives easier. And the third tool I wanted to show you are these. So these are loppers, and they are also a simple machine. If I just had two sharp pieces of metal and I pressed it, say on either side of this, I probably couldn't cut it. But since I have these, I have more force and more power to cut. Let's see how they work. Okay, so we are gonna test out that last tool we saw, the loppers, and I'm gonna see how different it is to cut something with a single blade that I have here compared to the loppers. And we're gonna cut some of this tree right here because it's invasive. Let's see. So I'm gonna cut this branch. Okay, so I cut the branch. It took a little bit of work and I had to use the serrated part of the blade right there. Let's try the loppers. That was much faster using these. So we are gonna take these that we cut and we are gonna put them in our compost. Okay, so I have gathered up those branches and a few weeds, and we're gonna put those in our compost. So, as you can see here, our compost bin needs a little bit of work. It's coming apart in some places, but can you still see what's happening to the things in the compost? And we can even peek underneath. What do you see at the bottom here? I'm seeing some soil, and I didn't put soil in this compost. So how did that soil get there? And finally, I didn't have any compost in our compost bin to share with you, but I do have some compost that I bought. So let's look at this. So this is the compost from the bag. It's very dark. It feels very light. What else do you notice? Let's compare it to soil that we have in our garden. This soil is very heavy. It feels crumbly, and it's a lot lighter in color. What is the difference between the soil and the compost? Thanks for joining me today to look around in the garden. We saw a few different things. We saw tools, We saw a bee trying to get on my finger. We saw soil and we saw compost. Now let's take a couple minutes to talk about what we saw, why the soil and the compost were different, and what was at the bottom of our compost bin. All right, bye y'all. Gardener Sydney signing off.